In this episode, we talk about an extinct species of wolves being brought back to life. We also talk about a wanted Indian diamond trader's arrest in Belgium. But first, we talk about an Indian Express investigation into the Dharavi redevelopment project. Hi, I'm Ichha Sharma, and you're listening to Three Things, the Indian Express news show. It was back in 1999 that the BJP Shiv Sena government first proposed redeveloping Dharavi, the biggest slum in Asia, spread over 2.8 square kilometers. Later, the state envisioned that the slum located in the heart of Mumbai could be transformed into a cluster of high-rises with improved urban infrastructure. A project which is now steered by a joint venture between the Adani Group and the Maharashtra government. But as part of this project, the state will now have to resettle over 5 lakh residents.
So basically the Dharavi redevelopment project is an ambitious project of the state government.
That's the Indian Express's Pratip Acharya.
So as part of this redevelopment project, the government wants to, set up housing units and as well as townships in several parts of the city as well as in Dharavi as well.
But what's concerning though is that last October, the Maharashtra government cleared a proposal to rehabilitate an estimated 50,000 to 1 lakh residents at the Deonar landfill, one of the biggest waste dumps in Mumbai. An investigation based on records accessed by the Indian Express under the Right to Information Act, along with field visits and interviews with officials, reveals that this move violates established environmental norms and the guidelines of the Central Pollution Control Board. In this segment, my colleague Shashank Bhargava speaks to Pratip, who led this investigation, about what the findings reveal.
Pratip, to understand the story, we first need to understand how the residents of Dharavi will be resettled. So talk about how this project plans to do that.
So as part of this project, the residents have been classified into 2 categories. One is the eligible residents. Like eligible residents are those citizens who have been living at Dharavi from on or before January 1, 2000. And the ineligible residents like who are, beyond the cutoff date. So according to the government's plan, the eligible residents, they will be given in situ houses, which is at Dharavi itself. And those who are ineligible, they will also be given accommodation at nominal rates in Mumbai, but placed outside Dharavi. While those who are eligible residents, they will get housing for free.
And do we know how many people are eligible and how many people are ineligible?
So at present, the state government, they are carrying out a survey of identifying the eligible and ineligible residents. So at present, approximate figure for the eligible residents is around 1.5 lakhs and the approximate figure for ineligible residents is around 3.5 to 4 lakhs.
And these 3.5 to 4 lakh people who are ineligible, that's what your investigation focuses on. Because one of the places where they're planning to resettle these people is actually the Deonar landfill, which is a huge dumping ground. But first, tell us, where else are they planning to relocate people?
So, besides Deonar, the government has, selected multiple land parcels, which is at Kudla Dairy. Then there are salt pan lands between Kanjurmarg and Mulund. Then there is also another land parcel that has been proposed at Malad. So there are multiple land parcels that have been earmarked for this project, but they are surrounded in different areas in Mumbai, not just in Dharavi.
And now let's focus on the Deonar landfill. For those who are not familiar with Mumbai, can you tell us where exactly it is located?
So the Deonar landfill is situated in a place which is called Deonar itself. The nearest railway station is Govanti. So it's in the eastern fringes of the city. So it is in the border of the eastern suburbs. And it is kind of located in the border of Mumbai. And on the other side of Deonar, there is the Navi Mumbai. And between Deonar and Navi Mumbai, there is the Vashi Creek, which is like a inlet of the Arabian Sea. So basically, Deonar landfill has been there since the early 20th century, and that place was selected because it was in the outskirts of the then Mumbai. Because Mumbai was initially an island city, the suburban belt did not exist during the 1920s, 1930s. So basically, considering that the suburban, the eastern suburbs was located in the east, like in the border of the eastern suburbs, Deonar was located. So that is where Deonar is.
And obviously, when we imagine a landfill, we imagine heaps and heaps of rotting waste and all sorts of toxic materials. Tell us, how big is this landfill?
So the landfill is like, it's a huge area. At present size of the landfill is around 311 acres and it comprises of around 20 million metric tons of solid waste. So which means like there are mountains of waste and rising up to a maximum height of 40 meters. And that is the height of the waste, which is like close to like 14, 15 or even 20-storied building.
And even on the face of it, this does not seem legal. Like, how can a joint venture involving the state government house people in such an inhospitable environment? Tell us, what does your investigation reveal about this, about the fact that this joint venture has actually proposed to house people in and around garbage dumps that are about 40 meters tall?
So basically there is a Central Pollution Control Boards, which is a CPCP. There is a 2021 guideline, which is the guidelines are for development projects that are supposed to be carried out in landfills. Because if you are constructing something in a landfill, there has to be some guideline. And the guideline clearly specifies that construction like development projects needs to be carried out inside a landfill that is no longer in operation first. And second thing is that facilities such as hospitals, housing units, schools cannot be built inside a landfill. But here Deonar is not a closed landfill. It is an active landfill, like spewing toxic gases and discharge of, leachate, which is the liquid that drains out of waste piles, contaminating the groundwater. These things are very regular. And according to a 2024 CPCB report that was submitted to the principal bench of the National Green Tribunal, an average 6,202 kilogram of methane is emitted from Deonar landfill every hour, making it one of the top 22 methane hotspots in India. So therefore, this is the reason like why there are certain violations in this decision. And also in the proposed land parcel, the Mumbai Municipal Corporation, which is the Mumbai civic body, they have proposed setting up of a waste to energy plant, and this plant is supposed to become operational from the second half of 2025, which is around, I think the tentative deadline is around October. So the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, which is of the Government of India, there is a rule saying that waste to energy plant should be located at least 500 meters away from housing areas, from residential zones. And such plant should be, built on land parcels that are specifically designed for industrial zones.
Okay, so one issue is that this is an active landfill, but you're saying that on top of that, another issue is that a waste to energy plant is also being proposed here.
Yeah. So there is a waste to energy plant upcoming. Like the waste to energy plant is supposed to like treat around 600 to 700 metric ton of waste. So basically this waste to energy plant is supposed to become operational from October 2025. And the approval of setting up this plant came in 2018. And the Government of India's, the Ministry of Housing and Union Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs rules state that there should be at least a 300 to 500 meter distance from such kind of plants and residential zones. Whereas we have found out during our investigation that land parcel where this, which has been allocated, is only 50 meters away from the upcoming plant. And the Government of India rules also says that such waste to energy plant should be set up only on land parcels that are, dedicated to medium or heavy industry. Because considering WTE plants, which is the waste to energy plants, are bigger in nature and they emit, ash, smoke. So they affect the air quality of a locality.
And we understand, of course, that this redevelopment project is a joint venture between the government and the Adani Group. So tell us a bit about its composition. Who are the main stakeholders here?
So the project is being executed by the Dharavi Redevelopment Project Private Limited, which is now called Navabharat Mega Developers Private Limited, which is a special purpose vehicle in which Adani Properties Private Limited holds around 80% of the stake, while the balance 20% of the stake is with the State Housing Department Slum Rehabilitation Authority. So basically, the key stakeholders are in the NMDPL, which is the new name of the DRPPL. So there are 11 board members in its board of directors, out of which two of them, one is the CEO of the Dharavi Redevelopment Project, which is Mr. SVR Srinivas, who is a senior IAS officer, and Mr. Bhushan Gagrani, who is the Municipal Commissioner of Mumbai. The other 9 members are senior executives from various Adani Group companies.
And Pratip, do we know what is the timeline of this project? For example, do we know when they plan to relocate these people? And also, I'm guessing they would have to clear the landfill as well, right? So do we know who is going to do that?
So there is no consensus on who is going to claim, because the Deonar landfill is the BMC said that we have given the landfill on as is condition as the government have asked it. But while investigating, we found out that the DRPPL had put the onus on the BMC for cleaning it. And earlier in January also the Maharashtra government had asked the BMC to, clean the land parcel. So, but right now there is no clarity on who is going to clean it yet. But the DRPPL had put the onus in BMC first. Secondly, the construction of the project is supposed to start from the second half of this year, like in phases, and the rehabilitation will be completed in the next 7 years from starting of construction.
And when you spoke to the stakeholders, including the NMDPL, talk about what they had to say about all of this.
So when we approach the key stakeholders, so each agency passed the buck on the other agency. For example, the Dharavi Redevelopment Project CEO said that in total we'll need an approximate land size of 200 to 300 acres out of Dharavi. So that is why we had to consider this landfill, because there is a shortage of available land parcels in Mumbai. Then again, when we went to the CEO of the SRA, which is a slum rehabilitation authority that owns 20% stake in the project, he said that we have 20% stake in the project. The onus of selecting the land was not with us. Then again, when we went to additional chief secretary of the housing department, she said that we only cleared the proposal based on the demand that the Dharavi Development Project Private Limited, which is the executing special purpose vehicle, made. Because this kind of decision is being made at the project level, the government doesn't have much to do. We had also sent a detailed questionnaire to the Adani group asking why a hazardous landfill at Deonar was chosen for this project, but the Adani spokesperson declined to comment.
And I mean, this project has been in the works for years now. And you have some of the city's most vulnerable people who live here. And now you have a large number of them who are expected to be shifted to this landfill. Talk about the concerns this raises.
Yeah, so I mean, there are multiple concerns that is there. So one is, like I said, like this place, according to a CPCB report, it is the government's report that was submitted to the principal bench of the NJT. It says that around 6,202 kilogram of methane is emitted from Deonar landfill every hour, making it one out of the top 22 methane hotspots in India. And also there is incidents of fire incidents inside the landfill, which is mainly caused due to methane. So this affects the local pollution, local air quality a lot. And also, since considering this place is very close to a waste to energy plant, that is also raises concerns about health issues, because the waste to energy plants, they emit smoke, they emit ash. So this affects the air quality of a space.
And next we talk about an achievement that has divided the scientific community. Earlier this month, the US-based company Colossal Biosciences claimed to have brought an extinct wolf back to life.
The scientists have successfully brought back genetically engineered wolves that resemble the extinct dire wolves.
Thanks to a groundbreaking project led by Colossal Biosciences. The scientists claim to have created 3 dire wolf pups by using ancient DNA, cloning and gene editing technology.
ये करीब 13,000 साल पहले लुप्त हो चुके भेड़िए की एक प्रजाति है जिसे डायर वुल्फ कहा जाता है. वैज्ञानिकों ने
Known for its de-extinction projects, the company Colossal Biosciences announced the birth of 3 genetically engineered dire wolf pups, which it claims are functional equivalents of the species that vanished over 10,000 years ago. Now, while Colossal says these pups resemble the dire wolf in physical traits, the genetic reality is far more complex. Experts are questioning whether this truly counts as resurrection or if these are simply gene-edited grey wolves. The Indian Express's Alind Chahuan, who reported on the story, helps us understand how this de-extinction process works, what the scientific evidence reveals, and whether we're actually witnessing the return of the dire wolf. Alan, could you start by explaining what de-extinction actually means, and is it any similar to cloning?
Okay, so de-extinction, what Colossal, the company that is carrying out this process, defines is as resurrection biology. It just reverses plant and animal extinctions by creating new versions of previously lost species. This is what they say. And so de-extinction and cloning are closely related, but exactly are not the same thing, because in cloning, scientists create genetically identical copies of extinct species. So they're the exact copies of those species. But cloning is a bit challenging because, let's say, a species has gone extinct thousands of years ago or hundreds of years ago in 17th century or 16th century. It's very difficult to find an intact DNA to clone them or to bring them back. So this is the main difference. So cloning will remain the exact genetically identical copies of that species. De-extinction is not.
Right. So tell us what de-extinction actually involves. And also, what does Colossal claim about what it has brought back with these wolves?
Okay. So basically, the scientists at Colossal contacted these museums and labs where they got access to direwolf specimens. So, for example, they got access to a tooth thought to be some 13,000 years old and a skull, which is thought to be 72,000 years old. Then what they did was they took out a well-preserved DNA from that, and by taking out that, by recovering that DNA, they were able to make genomes. Genomes are an organism's complete set of genetic information. So once they got this genetic information about dire wolves, they compared it to the genomes of other species which are alive today. And then what they claim that grey wolves and dire wolves' DNA are more or less 99.5% same. Like they share 99.5% of their DNA code, grey wolves and dire wolves. And to make the supposedly dire wolves, they then use gene editing to make 20 unique edits to 14 genes in grey wolf genomes. This helped them reproduce new pups which looked like dire wolves, and they had similar looking coat, hair length, coat patterning, body size, and other things. So this is how they did it.
Right. And how similar will these engineered animals be to the original dire wolf, like genetically or physically?
Yeah. So this question is very tricky. I think since this story has come out, since they have made this announcement, scientists are quite divided. By scientists, I say the scientists of Colossal are claiming one thing. The experts who have not worked with Colossal are saying another. What is happening now is the scientists at Colossal say that these pups, which were two of them were born in October last year, one of them called Khaleesi, which is like the name is based on the character of Game of Thrones, was born in January, that these three pups are actually dire wolves. And although they are not 100% identical, the company says that they are 100% not identical to dire wolves, they are dire wolves. The scientists outside Colossal are saying no, they are not, because even if they share 99.5% of their DNA, there are still many differences. Okay, because the grey wolf's genome is around like 2.4 billion base pairs long, and that still, leaves the room for millions of base pairs of differences. So there is, although in percentage wise, when you see it very close, but they are still very different from each other. Also, these wolves will not be behaving or eating or roaming around like the original dire wolves that used to exist some 13,000 years ago. They will be very different. In fact, Colossal has kept them in captivity. So there still are many, many differences between the extinct dire wolves and the new pups that have been born. And scientists have said they are not dire wolves, they are just grey wolves with hairs that look like dire wolves' hair. That's it.
But Alind, why was the dire wolf chosen as a de-extinction project? Like, what importance does the species hold?
There is no particular reason why they chose them. If you do a little bit of research, the person, the billionaire who runs the company, has randomly made a list of animals who have gone extinct hundreds of years ago and is resurrecting them. With dire wolf, my guess is that, and everybody's guessing is that, they are very famous because of Game of Thrones, a very popular HBO show. And apparently, a lot of craze has built over the years around dire wolf, and that's why they have resurrected them or have claimed to resurrected them.
Right, and also, what do we know about the direwolf's original ecosystem?
Okay, so what we know that these dire wolves went extinct around 13,000 years ago. And before that, for thousands of years, these wolves dominated southern Canada and the United States. They resembled grey wolves of today, They were quite large and had white coat. And what they did was they hunted horses, bison, and possibly mammoths. Scientists believe that once these other three species, horses, bison, and possibly mammoths, went extinct, partly because of human hunters, dire wolves also went extinct.
And Alan, you just spoke of the grey wolf, and you also mention a 2021 study in your story that reveals a genetic divergence between the modern grey wolf and the dire wolf. So, can you tell us why is this distinction important for this project?
So basically, like I said before, dire wolves looked quite similar to grey wolves. So over the years, there was this perception that they are very closely related. What this 2021 study, which was published in the journal Nature, it said that no, they are actually not closely related. In fact, they just looked similar. And the study also found that grey wolves and dire wolves last shared a common ancestor around 6 million years ago, which is like far, far, far ago. So they just look similar. They are not related.
And Alan, you earlier mentioned that the authorities at Colossal have randomly made a list of species that they want to de-extinct. So, what ecological concerns have scientists raised about, introducing such species into our modern ecosystems?
See, the problem with that is even if you, let's say, tomorrow resurrect an extinct species, which is like exactly identical, let's say we do that, the ecosystem that used to exist during their time is not going to come back. So, for example, I told you that they used to, dire wolves, when they were alive, they used to hunt mammoths. Now you are not able to bring back mammoths right now, right? So, what will they hunt on? And the way they lived, those things will not be able to be recreated right now. And even if that issue is resolved, the three new pups, which they claim to be dire wolves, are not going to join any pack of wolves. They do not have any parents who can teach them to survive and hunt. They will not be released in the natural habitat because their natural habitat doesn't exist, like I said. And it tells you what is their future then? The future seems to be bleak. Probably these three dire wolves, and they are not allowed to breed also. So these dire wolves are not going to multiply, and probably they will also go extinct. Therefore, experts are saying it's pointless to resurrect these species.
And one imagines that a lot of resources have been used to create these pups. So, what do scientists say about this level of investment in a project like this?
Yeah. So the bigger concern right now is that you have spent so much of money on this whole experiment. That money could have been used to actually save the endangered species of our times. Both of us know that currently the world is witnessing a climate crisis, a biodiversity crisis. So basically, scientists are saying that instead of spending so much of money on this very glamorous experiment, this money could have been used to save today's endangered species. So, for example, Colossal itself did this thing recently that they cloned four red wolf pups. Now, red wolf pups, there are less than 20 left in the wild. And by cloning them, Colossal itself is helping to increase their population. So the money they are spending on trying to bring back dire wolves, they could have used the same money to save the endangered species of today. So what scientists are saying, use this money, use this technology to save what we have right now, instead of trying to create what they are essentially saying is new animals. These grey wolf pups, which they claim to be dire wolves, are just new animals, which is quite cool, by the way. It's not something which is not cool, but the claim is problematic.
And in the end, we talk about a wanted Indian diamond trader's arrest. Mehul Choksi, a fugitive diamond trader wanted in the 13,000 crore rupees Punjab National Bank loan fraud case, was arrested yesterday in Belgium following an extradition request from the Indian government. Choksi, who had earlier obtained citizenship of Antigua and Barbuda, had reportedly travelled to Antwerp for cancer treatment and holds an F card for residency as a family member of an EU citizen. His wife, Preeti Choksi, is a Belgian national. Choksi's legal team in Belgium has confirmed that they will file an appeal for bail citing his ongoing medical treatment and claiming that he is not a flight risk. His lawyers also indicated that they may reference his 2021 encounter in Dominica, during which he alleged that he was kidnapped by Indian agents before being returned to Antigua. Choksi is currently facing criminal proceedings initiated by both the CBI and the Enforcement Directorate in India. He was first named in 2018 complaint by Punjab National Bank, which accused him and his firms, including Geetanjali Gems, of fraudulently securing credit through letters of undertaking. The ED later filed charges under the Prevention of Money Laundering Act, as well as sections of the Indian Penal Code and the Prevention of Corruption Act. India also filed a petition under the Fugitive Economic Offenders Act, which, if approved, could allow authorities to confiscate Choksi's properties even before trial. Although India does not have a formal extradition treaty with Antigua and Barbuda, it has maintained an extradition arrangement with Belgium, where Choksi was detained. This could provide a clearer legal pathway for India to bring him back, although the process may take time. Choksi previously fled India in January 2018, just before an FIR was registered in the case. Since then, he has used multiple legal arguments to resist extradition, including claims of health issues and concerns over safety in India. You were listening to 3 Things by the Indian Express. Today's show was edited and mixed by Suresh Pawar and produced by Shashank Bhargava and me, Ichha Sharma. If you like the show, then do subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. You can also recommend the show to someone you think will like it. Share it with a friend or someone in your family. It's the best way for people to get to know about us. You can also tweet us at Express Audio and write to us at podcast@indianexpress.com.